What does it mean to live on after your death, and what does it mean to live forever? Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we are here for another poetry discussion, which will appear, of course, in two separate playlists here on the channel. Number one, the Emily Dickinson playlist, a playlist of videos dedicated completely to the greatest poet of all time. And number two, the poetry discussion playlist, ever growing in its nature. The poem today is known as I Never Hear That One Is Dead by Emily Dickinson, and it reads as such. I never hear that one is dead without the chance of life afresh annihilating me, that mightiest belief. Too mighty for the daily mind that tilling its abyss had madness, had it once or twice, the yawning consciousness. Beliefs are bandaged like the tongue, when terror, were it told, in any tone commensurate, would strike us instant dead. I do not know the man so bold he dare in lonely place that awful stranger consciousness deliberately face. One thing that is going to stick out if you are an Emily Dickinson connoisseur is that this is a poem about death without the appearance of death. Death is not a character in this poem, as death is so often a character in Emily Dickinson's poems. Instead, we get something almost like the dead being a character. But we don't really get that. So many Emily Dickinson poems also include as a character an individual who has passed. That's kind of what's going on here, but in typical Emily Dickinson fashion, she would not let us off the hook so easy. Instead, is almost, if I could dare to bring up the term with Emily Dickinson, a hauntological type of poem. The idea of the dearly deceased is still the thing which is affecting the living, not the death itself, not the dead themselves, not death his or her self. It is the idea of the stricken. And maybe this is a story that I share too often on the channel, but I think that it helps to really put into perspective this type of poem, this type of idea in connection with living on after death. There was a video years and years ago on YouTube from someone who then professed themselves to be an atheist. And the video was about them losing their faith. And they had been a Christian, they were raised a Christian, all of these types of things. And they started to question their faith. And one of the things that they did along that journey, along that path, was look into Judaism, because Judaism is Christianity minus a couple other claims. So it parses back the area under which one might be wrong about the afterlife. So he finds himself a rabbi to talk to, and he's exchanging emails, I think it was, with the rabbi. And he realized through this string of emails that the rabbi didn't believe in God, was religious but did not believe in God, was what was known as a secular Jew, someone who practices the religion without believing the stories wholly, without believing the stories were real, without believing that there was a God at all. And he didn't understand, how do you do this? How does this make any sense for you? And he said that basically he believes that everything was metaphor, and that the idea of the afterlife was not going to live with some white-bearded man in the sky. You get your own toga upon entry. But what it really was you live on through the way you affect the world and leave ripples in it. You live on through your children. Did you raise your children to be good people? You live on in the way that you have inspired others to change their ways. You live on through the way your actions changed actions of people around you. I think that's a pretty fair way of looking at things, whether you believe in a God or not. The idea that a way to live forever is to create something so great, people are still learning from it 100 years afterwards. Something like 1,775 poems that are left to us in an absolute tome by Emily Dickinson. Um, in my opinion, that is largely what this poem is about. The idea of affecting the world after passing. I never hear that one is dead without the chance of life, afresh, annihilating me. So, I mean, already, the ability to talk about nihilism and hauntology in a single poem, this might be my new favorite. But Emily Dickinson also, in this poem, there's just so many things. I just want to go through and highlight some words you do not expect to see together. Afresh, annihilating. Would you have ever considered that? Daily mind. And these words aren't connected, but they are through language connected. Tilling abyss. How do you till the abyss? Yawning consciousness. Tone commensurate. Maybe that's more common than I'm giving it credit for, but and the way she twists language to put a pairing of words like deliberately face together. Awful stranger. It's almost like a Mad Lib sometimes with Emily Dickinson. Instant dead. It's almost like a Mad Lib with Emily Dickinson sometimes, because she had such a, not just such a large vocabulary, but such an artful way of putting words together that you get phrases like afresh, annihilating. I mean, that sounds like a punk band if I've ever heard it. Yawning consciousness. Yawning Consciousness is a punk band that puts the lessons of, I don't know, philosophers to hard rock. Well, that doesn't make sense because you know what? It does make sense because it's philosophy, it's punk, and it's hard rock. Okay, don't tell it what it can't do. But this is a poem that is, in my opinion, almost new every time you read it. I don't know how to do that. I promise you, bookmark this poem in your Emily Dickinson collection. I know you have one. Come back to it in a year, and it will be new to you. Part of it is that the poem itself exists almost as an apparition. Who are the characters? Where's the setting? What would you say is I think there's a moral. I don't know if there's a theme. So this poem is like a mist. It is very hard to nail down. It is very hard to really... I think that what will happen is that different parts of this poem, every time you read it, will snag your mind the way a loose nail will snag your shirt. and you'll get stuck up on this other little thing, right? Anyway, that is all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what I do here, hitting a like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. There's poetry every Monday, and I hope to have you back for the next one.